Okay, on the injury front, only two guys won't be out there today. That'll be Sendejo and Wyatt Teller. Everybody else will be out there for practice. We'll be inside with the snow. On the Giants, I think a really good football team. Second in their division, just like us. Winners of 4 of their last 5, just like us. I think it's a very, very well-coached team. I think you can see what Coach Judge is doing there. That's a disciplined, physical group that they have. I have a lot of respect for their coaches. They have a bunch of players at really at every level, at every position that give you problems. So really going to have to play our best ball, and that's the messaging going on the road, trying to get a victory. So we're looking forward to the week. We pushed things back a little bit today, as you can see, just to have a little bit more time to recover coming off of the night game. But now we're right back into it, into our preparations. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Coach. The first one will go to Tom Withers.
Thanks, Rob. Hey, Coach, we just talked to Coach Judge. I didn't realize he's also a 38-year-old Philadelphian. Do you guys know each other?
I do know Joe. Yeah, good man. So we crossed paths years ago. Played with his brother Jim in high school. Great person. I've been able to follow Joe's career. We kind of had different paths. He went to college, route coaching, and then he makes his way up to New England and has 3 Super Bowl rings to show for it. I know Joe. Chad O'Shea, who's on our staff, knows Joe, so they work very closely together. So he's meticulous. He's tough. He's demanding. We know that we're going to have our work cut out for us when you're facing a Joe Judge coach team.
And he had some really nice things to say about Baker. And I wanted to ask you again, you referenced it yesterday, Kevin, the way Baker shook off that mistake. What did that show specifically about his growth?
Tom, I just think when you're playing the quarterback position, and really all the positions, you're going to get beat. It's an occupational hazard, and how you respond to that is really what matters. So we don't like throwing interceptions. I know he doesn't. A defensive back doesn't like to get beat. An offensive tackle doesn't like to get beat, but it's really how you respond to that play that matters going forward.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. Jeff Shadell is next.
Hey, Kevin, could you address how getting Denzel Ward back is going to help your secondary, and how have those guys played in his absence for you?
Yeah, so we'll see where Denzel is throughout this week, and then we'll take that day by day. But we talked about this before. Our expectations, regardless of who's out there, really don't change. So the guys had to step up in his absence. Guys are playing different positions for us, and that's what's required. But if Denzel's able to make it back, obviously that would be a big boost to our team.
Thank you, Jeff. Mary Kay Cabot will go to you.
Yeah, in talking to Coach Judge today, he did mention that Daniel Jones is dealing with not only a hamstring, but another lower leg injury. I guess it's an ankle, and that he has not made a decision yet on Daniel, which obviously means Colt McCoy might start the game. So can you just talk about preparing for both of those two guys? How does that impact you, and what do you think of both?
Yeah, 2 good players. Daniel Jones, I know he was a little bit banged up, but the type of athlete he is. He can really hurt you with his arm or his legs. Really good young player. I got to see him last year up close. I think he's a very, very good young player. And then Colt McCoy's done it many times over the years, and he's won for this Giants team. He's a veteran. He's seen it all. He understands what they want to do offensively, where to go with the ball. Really a good quarterback, good backup quarterback.
And how does that, impact you guys having to kind of prepare for 2?
Yeah, I think that happens over the course of a season. You got to go into it and study both guys and understand their strengths and things that they may lean on depending on who's in there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Kay. Nate Orrick, you're up.
Hey, Kevin, are you guys walking through or actually practicing today?
We're practicing.
Okay. And so you'll have Ward, Hodge, Hooper, and Wills back. Do you have any feel for, with Teller out, is he, a guy who can come back and practice later in the week? Is that what your medical staff's telling you, or where are you at with Teller?
Yeah, we're just going to take him day by day, Nate, and see how he responds tomorrow and see how he responds depending on what we do tomorrow with him, see how he responds to that, comes back. So I really don't know. I would say it's more day to day with him.
And is it related to the strained calf or
I think unrelated.
unrelated? Thank you.
Thank you, Nate. Scott Petrick, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. Baker made a few plays with his legs the other day. Just how important is it for him to be able to help out the line when the protection isn't perfect?
It helps out the play caller too. You send in some plays that aren't very good, and he makes it right, and that's where quarterback can be a great eraser for some bad plays. So he's done a nice job, and then you got to know when to pull it down and run, when to hang in there. But you mentioned the offensive line. I mean, to give up no sacks versus a tough group is a big deal, and that's important to us. And we got to keep him clean. Is really the charge every game.
Specifically, that touchdown. I don't know what the view was like for you, but I'm sure you've seen it since. What did you see, and like kind of the composure that Baker showed there?
Yeah, he had a really nice pump there, held on to the ball, was able to escape and make a play. When you play man coverage, that's what happens. Sometimes your back is to the quarterback covering your guy.
Thanks.
Thanks, Scott. Jake Trotter, we'll go to you.
Yeah, Kevin, what advantage has it been for you this entire season, for the most part, to be able to rotate Nick and Kareem, both in individual games, and then as you get later on in the season, more tread on the tires, keeping those guys fresh for, run down the stretch?
Yeah, I think that's the word, Jake, fresh. I think that's important for guys. It's in the fourth quarter, if you don't have, a full works load, if you just have one guy out there, it's hard for him to be at his best. And I think you've seen both Nick and Kareem be able to play well late in games. And I think Stump Mitchell does an outstanding job with those guys throughout the week, and then especially on game day, kind of knowing when to sub each guy in. Stump is on top of that.
Thank you, Jake. Next question goes to Ed Barkowitz.
Hey, Kev, Ed Barkowitz from Philly Daily News. Ted Solari sends his best. How interested are you in whether it's Joe's team or Sean McDermott's team? That Philly connection. Whether it's prep against LaSalle or the Lansdale connection. What goes through your mind through this? Because it's an interesting time.
Yeah. Well, first of all, please say hi to Ted for me. It's unique. It's different. But I think it's a great deal. It's great for the Philadelphia Catholic League. I'm excited about that for Sean and for Joe and myself to represent the league. I think is pretty cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed. Steve Dorshik, you're up.
Kevin, you guys have come a long way to be 9-4 and in a driver's seat for the wild card and that sort of thing. My question goes back to it kind of seems like yesterday when we were all sitting in the room at the stadium and your family was there and you were talking about what was going to be possible. But the question is relative to how far you guys have come, what did you think was possible?
You cut off there, Steve. You're saying what did I think was possible for this season?
You can go ahead and unmute your line, Steve.
I think I got. Sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now, Kev?
I got you. Yes.
Okay, but yeah, what that day back when you were sitting there with your family in the stadium, did you think was possible for 2020?
Yeah, I mean, hard to predict 2020 back then. I didn't think a lot of things were going to be happening that are happening now. I think we really honed in as an organization on what we wanted to be, Steve, and we talked at length about the players we wanted to bring in here and the players that were already here and what we wanted to look like. But in terms of focusing on results, that's never going to be what I'm about. I'm about focusing on the process and the routine of how we do things around here.
You have to pinch yourself at all. I mean, you're a pretty grounded guy, you hope for the best and then maybe somewhat of a best case scenario is happening, but still do you have to pinch yourself sometimes to, how happy you are about the fact that the team is in really good shape right now?
Yeah, Steve, honestly, I don't really think of it in those terms. I think that's really something you do in the off season when you reflect on what's going on. But we really stay in the moment around here and put those blinders on and think about the New York Football Giants, a really good team. Us having to go on the road is really what's on our mind.
Thanks, Steve. Back to Jake Trotter.
I don't have another question, Rob. Sorry about that.
No worries, Jake. Mary Kay Cabot, you're up.
Yeah, Coach, what is Jabril Peppers doing for these guys? What kind of contribution is he making? Obviously, he was here, so there's a lot of interest in him.
Yeah, good player. Obviously, very good special teams player, good returner. Plays down around the line of scrimmage. Excellent man coverage, ball skills. He does a nice job for them. They put him in a variety of roles.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Fred Greetham, you have our next question.
Yeah, Coach, just clarification. I assume with Austin Hooper that he's practicing, is he cleared to, no limitations with that neck, or is he restricted? And what can he do, getting back in the lineup for you?
Yeah, we'll see what he can do out there today, Fred, on the field. We'll monitor him and make a decision appropriately for the next day. But I think he's trending in the right direction.
Thank you, Fred. Scott Petrick, you're up.
Hey, Kevin, what makes that Giants defense effective?
They do a really nice job. Coach Graham, I have a ton of respect for him. They play multiple fronts. They play them all well. Varying coverages, really, really good at disguise. Maybe the best team that we've played in terms of disguising their coverage. I just think that they're a sound defense that does multiple things, which is hard to pull off.
In Leonard Williams specifically, what kind of test is that for you guys on the inside?
Yeah, they have a very good front along the front. Leonard Williams does a great job there for them. He's athletic. He can penetrate. He can play the run. I think he's a very, very good player.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Back to Nate Orrick.
Kevin, just to follow up on what you just said there, a team that might be the best you've faced, disguising coverage, how does that translate into your approach with Baker?
How does it translate into what, Nate? I'm sorry.
Your approach with Baker this week?
Yeah, I think it's for any quarterback when you're playing a defense. When you pull that ball or when you get the ball in the shotgun, you got to confirm what's going on post snap. I think they have some, their safeties are savvy veterans that are trying to give you one look and play another. So you got to confirm what's going on with all those indicators that you can get pre-snap. You got to confirm it post-snap.
How much has Baker grown throughout the season in those facets of the game?
He works very hard at it. I think Alex Van Pelt and all the quarterbacks spend a lot of time grinding on that tape so that they can understand the different looks and try and get a few clues to what they're seeing. But that comes from film study and then being diligent about your work out there on the practice field.
And one last thing, John Harbaugh, there's an NFL Films clip that they put out of, you guys shaking hands after the game. And he says to you that, that was one of the greatest games in history. And, I'm sure, in the moment, you may not have wanted to reflect on it, but a couple days later, can you appreciate how great of a game that was? And I mean, what did you think of that, his assessment, and are you on board with that?
Yeah, Coach Harbaugh obviously was on the winning side there. So I think he probably felt differently about it right then and there, but he's a good man. I appreciate him as a person, but we're now moving on to New York.
Thank you, Nate. Tony Grossi is next.
Hey, Kevin, you've been involved in a lot of offensive shootouts this year, and you've been kind of a pedal to the metal play caller. The Giants look like they're the complete opposite. They try to control the clock, field position, very tightly called offensive game. Knowing that, how does that affect your game plan at this stage of the week?
Yeah, Tony, I think you look at it each week, and you're really just trying to put a plan together that matches up what you do well and what gives them problems. So whether that means we play no huddle or we snap it at 1 second on the play clock, that's just dependent on the game. How they play is how they play, and then you got to make sure that you're staying true to who you are when playing any of these games.
Thanks, Tony. Scott Petrick, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, I know it took a 55-yard field goal, but what would you have liked to see your defense do either differently or better on that last drive so that wasn't even a possibility?
Yeah, obviously, going back to the other night, you want to get a stop. You want to find a way to keep them on that side of the field, but they made more plays than we did.
No, I mean, nothing specifically. You need to be tighter coverage. You need, the pass rush isn't what it needed to be.
I mean, it's easy. All of us, I'm sure, could point out a bunch of things that we wish we could do better, but what wasn't meant to be, and now we're on to New York.